Okay. Shall we dig in then?
I can't see why not.
Did you bring your tools?
I brought my
Pickaxe?
spelunking gear. And
Excellent. Headlamp?
I brought a stalagmite and a stalactite because I know one of them is going to go above me, but I can't remember which. This episode of Trifles is made possible by listeners like you who support us on Patreon and Substack. To learn more, go to patreon.com/trifles or trifles.substack.com.
Welcome to Trifles, a weekly podcast about the Sherlock Holmes stories.
It is, of course, a trifle, but there is nothing so important as trifles.
Yes, the box was cardboard, the detective was dying, and the bridge was Thor, but there are so many other details to pick apart in the stories.
Pray, be precise as to details.
Have you ever stopped to wonder why James Phillimore disappeared looking for his umbrella? Or just how parsley can manage to sink into the butter?
You are very inquisitive, Mr. Holmes.
It is my business to know what other people don't know.
Scott Monty and Burt Wolder will have the answers to these questions and more in Trifles.
The game's afoot.
Episode 465, Angels of Darkness. Hello and welcome to Trifles, the Sherlock Holmes podcast where we get into the minutiae in the Sherlock Holmes stories. I'm Scott Monty.
I'm Burt Wolder.
And Burt, you are, well, I was going to say you're my angel of darkness, but you're really not dark at all. You're nothing but sweetness and light.
I like to think of myself, Mr. Renfield.
All right, well, then you're no angel, if that's the case.
A lonely angel of darkness in my beautiful castle.
This is part 8 of the series we're doing on the Apocrypha of Sherlock Holmes. It brings us to almost the end. I say almost because we actually have a little bit more to say. You'll hear that in next month's installment. Meanwhile, you can go back and take a listen to a number of the Apocrypha episodes. And if you are part of our Substack or our Patreon communities, we actually have all of those lined up in a playlist and a library of sorts where you can reference them all in one place. So check out the links in the show notes to each of those and make sure you hit that back catalog so you can listen to all of them. And of course, while you're there, you may as well support us for as little as $1 a month. You can join those communities. Now, there is an annual or a monthly kind of term to some of those, although Substack you can do on a month-by-month basis. You don't have to stick with us forever. But I also wanted to make sure that folks knew that we have a merch store. We're selling Trifles mugs and Trifles notepads and 221B and 1895 oval stickers for your car or your laptop or wherever you want to stick things. And as we know, our listeners tell us all the time where to stick things. But you can find the link for our merch store in the show notes as well. So make sure you check that out. We're going to be expanding over time to offer additional merchandise, additional items of Sherlockian nature that you might want to be adding to your collection. So check it out. All of the proceeds help to support the show, so we do appreciate you getting something from it and us getting something from it at the same time. Okay, we are stepping back into the apocryphal world of Sherlock Holmes. Just as a reminder, the Apocrypha are stories that, well, could have been Sherlock Holmes stories, but weren't. They weren't included in the original 60. Maybe they're adjacent, maybe they're written by Conan Doyle, maybe they're written by someone else. It's a jumble of things. But the good news is we still have these fragments all around that folks can discover and learn from. And the world of Sherlock Holmes keeps opening up to us. So, Burt, where are we going to start with Angels of Darkness?
Well, let's start with where it came from. And we've been talking only a little bit about this before we began recording, but it really is dreadful. I have to. I just have to start.
But don't hold back now. I want you to be honest with people.
That it really is dreadful as a standalone work, but as an aspect of the life of a great writer, it's fascinating and interesting. And a good place to start is where it came from and who knew about it. And the interesting part is that there's a general consensus, of course, which we will talk more about, that it predated A Study in Scarlet, and it was written around 1886. And where it came from is that it was completely unknown until 1945. In 1945, of course, Conan Doyle had been dead for 15 years, and his son, Adrian, wrote a biography of his father because he was very, very unhappy, as we've discussed before, with the biography that Hesketh Pearson had written about his father. And in that biography, he mentions it, Angel of Darkness. So the play was this is a play, it was only known to the Conan Doyle family until 1945. And then it was mentioned sort of here and there. 4 years later, John Dixon Carr published his own Life of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and mentioned it. And then during the Great Festival of Britain in 1951, and then as it toured America in some locations in 1952, it was on display. And what it was 5 exercise books, 5 Conan Doyle would frequently write his manuscript in what we would call today a composition book. But at the time, these are basically things that students would be using in school to write their essays in by hand. And it existed in 5 of these manuscript books. And through a series of circumstances, it was eventually donated by Adrian's widow to the Toronto Public Library, and the Baker Street Irregulars published it in 2001. So that's the history of where it came from.
Expand on that a little bit if I can.
Sure.
You rightfully state that it was published by the BSI in 2001. That was the first time it was ever made publicly available. So before that, the general public had not laid eyes on this piece of Apocrypha of Sherlock Holmes. And the earliest public mention that we know of the play was in the Portsmouth Crescent on 28 September 1888, which noted that the story, A Study in Scarlet, which has gained worldwide reputation and which we believe will shortly be dramatized, has now been republished. And Adrian Conan Doyle, as you said, in the true Conan Doyle, was of the view that the play preceded the writing of A Study in Scarlet. So in other words, that American portion of A Study in Scarlet was the I'm getting ahead of myself. Was the inspiration for the play rather than the play being the inspiration for the American chapters of A Study in Scarlet. Okay, so and I think let's see, Adrian Conan Doyle and Owen Dudley Edwards both believe that the play preceded A Study in Scarlet. Now, John Dixon Carr, who you mentioned, expressly stated that the first two acts of this play were written in 1889, and the third in 1890. Now, remember, A Study in Scarlet was written in 1886, 1887. Now, Cameron Hollier and Michael Homer both argue that the play was a revision of A Study in Scarlet. Well, that doubt was ended. Any of those suppositions ended with the publication of Arthur Conan Doyle, A Life in Letters. And we interviewed the authors of that book, John Lellenberg and Dan Stasauer, on an episode of I Hear of Sherlock Everywhere. And we'll have that in the show notes for you. Actually, no, that was just, was it Life and Letters, Lellenberg and Stasauer?
They
Was that
they
just
did
Stan
the Arctic Diary.
They didn't do Life of Letters too?
No, I think they did, didn't they?
Yes, they did. I'm thinking of Teller of Tales, which was just Dan.
Dan's biography.
Yeah.
Right.
But Life and Letters was Lellenberg and Stasauer together.
Right. But what is in Life of Letters that dates?
Actually,
the
you know
play?
what? Wait, that was episode 13 of iHose. So, sorry. That's why we can't remember it, because it was all the way back in season 1.
Ooh, season 1. I was 11 years old then.
Yeah, I know. But in Life of Letters, they published, hundreds of letters of Conan Doyle's. And in a letter to his mother, the ma'am, in October 1890, Conan Doyle wrote, "I've finished my play, The Angels of Darkness. I had 2 really good acts done a year ago, but could not satisfy myself as in the denouement. 2 days ago, it suddenly came to me, and with a spurt of work, I finished the piece. It will do very well now, I think, and the end is worthy of the beginning. It is, of course, founded upon The Study in Scarlet. I've already written to Charles Terry about it. If they put it on in London, you must come up for the first night." And isn't this interesting? Once again, we have Conan Doyle turning to the theater in these apocryphal stories. We covered a number of them already, where Conan Doyle was becoming more theatrical in his creative outputs. I think The Speckled Band was one of them, and The Crown Diamond. Those 2 in particular, right?
Yeah. Well, now wait a minute though, because the play is unfinished, at least as was published by the Baker Street Irregulars. So what you have there is Conan Doyle writing about a finished work that, by his own word, would have begun 2 years earlier in 1887, right? So that you just said he said
88, 89 is when he wrote the previous 2, right?
When is he writing to his
He
mother?
said, this is October of 1890. He said, I've had 2 really good acts done a year ago. So he completed the first 2 acts in 1889.
Yeah. And then, so this is 1891 or 1890?
1890.
So he's writing to his mother in 1890. And yet the play is published by the BSI, just stops. There's no ending. I mean, well, there's a new ending, but the published play, the last 2 lines of the published play are, "Notebook 5 ends here, probably abandoned," with the word, Dick : Dick period on the page, about to say something. And there's an alternative. This was an alternative
ending, yeah.
Ending, yeah. And in fact, what it says here, for example, in the BSI text of this on page 128, Notebook 5, alternative ending, A. Conan Doyle, Bush Villa, South Sea. So there he is in South Sea, and Angels of Darkness, Act 4, the same. And so here we have a new ending. The prior ending, we should just sort of stop for a second here and let's continue this discussion. But let me just bring the listeners up to date. Folks, what we're talking about here is a play. And the play is basically all about the characters and people with a few more characters from the American section of A Study in Scarlet. The only way this counts as Apocrypha of Sherlock Holmes is because there is an American section in The Study in Scarlet that features these people in that situation. Sherlock Holmes doesn't appear in it.
That's right.
But Dr. John Watson does. And here he's a San Francisco medical practitioner, and we'll be talking a little bit more about Dr. Watson later. So this is the deal. It's the American section of A Study in Scarlet, all that Mormon stuff, no Holmes, and no mystery. It's all about the Mormons and Lucy Ferrier and Jefferson Hope and that whole crowd. So anyway, so what you have here is 4 notebooks, and which were now transcribed and published. And Notebook 5 is the alternative ending. And in the prior ending, this is a 3-act play. In the prior ending, Dr. Watson, who pops up in Act 3 in San Francisco, turns out to be in love with Lucy Ferrier, who is not dead, no. And at the end, he and Lucy embrace at the end of the first version of the ending of Act 3. And then, Notebook 5, alternative ending, Act 4, there's a 4th act, and that's also got Watson in it, except now it has a very active Jefferson Hope. Jefferson Hope has, I think, died in the prior ending of the play. But now he and Watson are basically competing for the affections of Lucy Ferrier, and Hope knows his time is limited, and he, at the end of this alternative ending, he is sort of on the road to leaving her with Dr. Watson. He says, "I'm dead to her. These devils have done for me." And he says, "I am too poor, too broken a thing to claim a woman's love." And then the next line is the character Dick, who says nothing, because Notebook 5 ends there and says probably abandoned.
Well, if we turn to the Sherlock Holmes reference library version of this, there must have been, the rest of it must have been found, which it doesn't really contain too much more. Let's see. Yes, you say the danger still hangs over your mistress. I'm come lately from Salt Lake City. We've got that. Yes. I have cause to believe that it will not be long before the blow falls, but they may find that a darker angel than themselves is on their own trail. Where do you sleep, Dick? Up there in the front, Massa Jefferson. Then keep your window open and come to me if I call for you. And here the fragment ends.
Oh, okay. So this is. See, I didn't look at the Apocrypha in the reference library, because here in the text, if you look at the BSI book, page 99, the BSI reprint, we have this bit of dialogue here with Dick and Smee. Smee is one of these scoundrel, funny scoundrel kinds of characters. And down there at the bottom of page 99 in the BSI book, hemoglobin. Dick is talking about how the educated classes are now, it's not your, he has said, "I'll shed my last drop of hemoglobin," because that's what the educated classes call it. And that reference, if you look at the reference library version of this on page 172, that reference, which comes earlier in the text in the BSI 2001 reprint, also has at the bottom of page 172 in the reference library this dialogue between these two characters and hemoglobin, and except now it's the ending fragment of the play. So, and I marked that because it was one of the few Sherlockian references. The first time we see Sherlock Holmes, he's developed a blood test, a terrific blood test. And so there would seem to be a great disparity between the Angels of Darkness as it is in the Apocrypha book in the reference library and the text from 2001?
Yeah, that's a good question. And the reference library was published, this one was published in 2009.
Yeah.
So makes you wonder if there was more in the Toronto reference library that was found, or if there was some correction that went on. Who knows?
Well, we should know.
Who knows? Well, what do you think we are, authorities or something?
Yeah.
What do I look like over here?
Well, you look to me like an authority.
What do I look like? Chopped liver? I mean, come on.
Collection of essays. At the time, there was serious doubt. Isn't that interesting? Well, we should tell our listeners that, despite this inconsistency that we seem to have, we can say a couple of things, I think, without fear of contradiction about Angels of Darkness. One is that, as far as we know, or as far as I know certainly, it's never been performed. Two,
thank goodness,
it's not likely to ever be performed. Three, it relies on a bunch of stock characters and stereotypes that certainly not today, and for the last decades probably would not have been acceptable on the stage.
I'm going to stop you right there, because there is a photograph in the reference library version.
Oh no, really? Somebody put this on?
Dr. Watson, Jefferson Hope, Smee, and Lucy Ferry in the premiere performance of Angels of Darkness on August 30th, 2008.
Oh,
in Salt Lake City, which must have been at the BSI
as part of the
excursion.
Excursion.
Yes. Dr. Watson was played by Curtis Armstrong.
Oh, here.
And the others were played by the Danite Players.
Oh, what page is that on?
167.
167. 67. Look at that. Curtis Armstrong. The Day-Night Players at the premiere performance. Well, they look certainly suitably uncomfortable.
Yeah, it is.
But you see, to hear,
yes,
that photograph appears with the original ending.
That's
of
right.
Watson and Lucy together.
Right. And then you turn the page, and we see alternate ending, Act 4.
Yeah. But that alternate ending does not agree with the one that the BSI put. Well, clearly you're right. Something must have been
None
found.
of this agrees with me.
Yeah. Some misness should have been found. Well, folks, we should just tell you very quickly what's going on in the play. If you don't remember the Mormon section of A Study in Scarlet, is that poor old Jefferson Hope has rescued Lucy Ferrier from a fate, death, in a great trek across the United States from east to west as part of this great migration, and fallen in the hands of the Mormons. And he's living. He and Lucy are living quite happily with the Mormons. They're not of the Mormon faith. Don't really agree with all the practices, which at this time include polygamy. Lucy is getting very close to marriageable age, and the local evil Danites and Mormons make it their business. No, we're talking about Ferrier, not Jefferson Hope. Ferrier, John Ferrier, is living with Lucy, and they tell Ferrier, look, your daughter Lucy here is getting to be marriageable age, and she should marry this one or that one, and she should pick one in a month. But Lucy is in love with Jefferson Hope, and so in the play they skedaddle, and the rest of the play is they're pursued and run to ground. And the alternate ending is basically what's going to happen to Lucy. And in version 1 of the ending, she winds up with this doctor Dr. Watson in San Francisco. And in version 2 of the ending, it's not quite clear where she winds up, I think.
Indeed.
So that's my 36,000-foot summary.
Perfect. That's the way to leave it. But as part of this, with Dr. Watson being woven into the narrative, you see, in A Study in Scarlet, he wasn't part of that narrative. This was an omniscient third person. As a matter of fact, I recall one of the Morley Montgomery Award winning articles, I think it was from 2000. Ben Vazosky wrote a paper called Who Wrote the American Chapters of A Study in Scarlet?
Oh, right. I remember
Which was
that.
an excellent, excellent paper. I mean, obviously deserving of the Morley Montgomery Award. And I think his conclusion is that most of it was written by Watson. 9 chapters were written from Watson's direct experience, and most of the American chapters were composed from information supplied by Hope's accomplice. The one sentence at the end of chapter 12 was contributed by Doyle. But with that one sentence, he managed, in the minds of some poor misguided souls, to attach his name to the entire canon. The Angels of Darkness, though, puts Watson in San Francisco, which I had always wondered about William Baring Gould, placing Watson in San Francisco as he did in the biography of Sherlock Holmes of Baker Street. And you recall in episode 318, we talked about Watson's marriages. And there may have been as few as 2 or as many as, I think, 6 marriages based on different scholars' approaches. And Baring Gould was one of them that had the upper level of the number of marriages, including Watson's first marriage having taken place in those early years in San Francisco. And Watson appearing in The Angels of Darkness makes it clear how that may have been possible.
Yes. Well, one of his marriages clearly was to Lucy Ferrier. Now, the interesting thing about this, about Watson, is that in how he appears in Angels of Darkness, and I'm not quite certain if this is his first appearance, but what I have is in the 2001 book on page 103. What's going on here is that you have Enoch Drebber, one of the villains of the piece, who is apparently disguising himself for some reason as a cartoon Frenchman called the Count de Charny, who's in an invalid chair wearing blue goggles and a scarf around his chin. And he's being pushed by his pretended valet, John Short, who's one of these conspirators as well. And he's got, when I say cartoon Frenchman, you can tell that because the dialogue is things like, "Mais oui, Monsieur Smee, you have arisen to have cause to thank your heir, draw me into the sunshine." He's got all this. But the reason why I point this out is that we're about to have Watson enter. And what happens is now the Count and Short are talking without the cartoon accents. The Count says, "I believe I'm suspected by that infernal Englishman. The fellow is not such an idiot as he looks, and this French disguise sits awkwardly upon me at times. Here he comes with," and then there's no other word there, "and enter Dr. Watson." And I'm just going to read Dr. Watson's first dialogue here. "A little more into the sun, it's a Scotch sort of exaggerated accent. "A little more into the sun, mon garçon. A little more into the sun." I think, enter Dr. Watson and Sir Montague Brown. And I just don't get that little, he's not trying to sound French, so it must be Conan Doyle's attempt to make him sound Scottish.
That is something.
Lethal. And where'd that come from?
I don't know.
And then you've got the dialogue with Sir Montague, who says, my complaint is one you can't cure, don't you know, doctor? There's no drug can do me any good, you know? I mean, you've got these accents written into the text, which are... So it's not doctor, it's doctor.
Goodness.
And he's clearly English, because later on he'll be talking about shooting at the Kaffirs. I shot at the Kaffirs. Kaffirs shot at me. They shouted. I shouted. Dem silly business, he says.
Wow. It's astounding. This never came to the stage during Conan Doyle's lifetime. I can imagine his mother beating him about the head with her umbrella if he made her attend this.
This is our Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. There's another. I'm so sorry to trouble you with this stuff, but I just find it so amusing. Sir Montague has some dialogue on page 105. We're talking about Egypt, and the Count is doing his cartoon French accent. Ah, merci, mon ami. It's not necessaire. And Sir Montague says, "Oh, you've been in Egypt, eh? Up the Nile, I suppose." "Oh, yes, Sir Montague. Fine old country, that. But in a shocking state of disrepair, don't you know? I mean to say it wants setting in order badly. Pyramids all tumbling to pieces. Went up 'em. Great bore. Arab jumped, I jumped. Arab jumped again, I jumped. Got on the top. Nothing on the top. Thought it a dim, silly business and came down again. What's your favorite pyramid, Count?"
Wow.
Oh, dear, oh, dear.
Wow.
There you go. That's what I call your Apocrypha.
And, it's interesting because he said, in Egypt and not visit the pyramids? Really now. Really. So he's saying really with a W, but he says pyramids with a hard R. He doesn't say pyramids, he says pyramids, and then wheelie.
Wheelie, doctor, yes.
This is really bad.
Well...
So, folks, if you can pick up a copy of Angels of Darkness, to paraphrase Dorothy Parker, this play should not be taken lightly. It should be hurled with great force at the wall. And that is just a trifle.
Don't you mean twifle?
It is, of course, a trifle, but there is nothing so important as trifles.
Please join us again next week for another installment of Trifles. Show notes are available on SherlockHolmesPodcast.com. Please subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts and be sure to check out our longer show, I Hear of Sherlock Everywhere, where we interview notable Sherlockians and share news of the Sherlockian world.
You've taken my breath away, Mr. Holmes.
If you speak to anyone about this, one human soul mind, well, may God have mercy on your soul.